The Calithian war fleet emerged from hyperspace with the confidence of a species that had conquered 17 worlds in the past century. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Edge, watching the primitive blue-green planet through the view screen. Earth hung there like a jewel, unaware of the doom approaching from the void. "Scan reports, Commander?" Vextar's voice carried the authority of one who had never tasted defeat. "Standard planetary defenses detected, Admiral. A few orbital stations, primitive nuclear-powered vessels scattered throughout their system. Nothing that poses a threat to our fleet." Commander Relkan's mandibles clicked in what passed for amusement among his species. Their most advanced ships appear to be concentrated around their moon and the inner planets. The Admiral's 4 eyes gleamed with satisfaction. The Calithians had perfected the art of conquest through overwhelming force. 300 battleships, each capable of glassing a continent, comprised the largest invasion fleet ever assembled. Earth would fall within days, its resources stripped, its population enslaved or eliminated. "Set course for the planet. Standard. Formation. Will—" "Admiral!" The communications officer's voice cracked with sudden alarm. "We're receiving a transmission. Source unknown." The bridge fell silent except for the steady hum of the ship's engines. In all their campaigns, no civilization had ever dared to hail a Calithian fleet except to surrender. On screen, the view screen flickered, revealing a human face, pale, angular, with eyes that seemed to hold depths the Admiral couldn't fathom. The being spoke in perfect Calithian, which should have been impossible. "Greetings, Admiral Vextar of the Calithian Empire. I am Director Martinez of the Solar Defense Initiative. You are trespassing in sovereign human space." Vextar's laugh was a harsh, grating sound. "Human, you face the might of 300 warships. Surrender now, and your death will be swift." The human's expression didn't change. "Admiral, you misunderstand the situation. You're not facing Earth's defenses. You're facing ours. This is your only warning. Leave now or face the consequences." "Ours?" Vextar sneered. "Human, I see only empty space and your pathetic mining operations in the asteroid belt." "Precisely." The transmission cut out. For a moment, confusion rippled through the bridge crew. Then the sensor operator's voice rose in panic. "Admiral, the asteroids, they're moving!" On the tactical display, thousands of contact signatures blazed to life. What the Calithians had dismissed as space debris and mining operations suddenly revealed their true nature. The asteroids weren't natural formations. They were massive, camouflaged installations, weapons platforms, defensive fortresses. Humans had done something no other species in the galaxy had attempted. They had militarized their entire asteroid belt, turning it into the largest defensive network ever constructed. Every rock, every mining station, every piece of apparent debris was a carefully positioned guardian, armed and waiting. "Impossible," Vextar whispered, watching as the asteroid belt came alive with weapon signatures that dwarfed his own fleets. Firepower. The humans hadn't built their defenses around their planet. They had built them around their entire star system, using the asteroid belt as a natural fortress that stretched across millions of cubic kilometers of space. The Calithian fleet, for all its might, was trapped in the middle of the largest minefield in known space, and the humans had been waiting for them. The first indication that humanity had been preparing for this moment came not from the weapon signatures, but from the sheer scale of coordination. As Admiral Vextar watched in growing horror, the asteroid belt transformed from a scattered collection of rocks into a synchronized defensive network that defied every tactical manual in the Calithian military database. "Combat analysis, now!" Vextar barked, his 4 eyes darting between displays that showed impossible readings. "Admiral, we're detecting power signatures from over 15,000 separate installations. Each asteroid appears to be occupied, inhabited." They're not. Just weapons platforms. They're entire military bases. The sensor operator's voice trembled. Mass readings suggest some of these installations are larger than our dreadnoughts. What the Calethians were witnessing was the culmination of 3 centuries of human paranoia and preparation. After first contact with galactic civilization had revealed humanity's vulnerable position, Earth's greatest minds had conceived an audacious plan. If Earth couldn't hide from the galaxy, then the galaxy would have to come through humanity's terms to reach it. The asteroid belt had become humanity's Gibraltar, stretched across space on an unimaginable scale. Commander Rel Khan studied the tactical display with growing unease. Admiral, their positioning is perfect. They've created overlapping fields of fire that cover every possible approach vector to the inner system. Any ship trying to reach Earth would have to fight through multiple layers of defensive positions. Inside Asteroid Station, Series Alpha, General Rodriguez watched the Calethian fleet through sensors that had been tracking their approach for weeks. The massive hollowed-out asteroid housed a population of 50,000 military personnel and their families, along with manufacturing facilities that could produce warships faster than Earth's orbital shipyards. "All stations report ready, General," her aide reported. "The Calethians are holding position just outside the primary defensive perimeter." Rodriguez nodded, her weathered hands steady as she activated the fleet-wide communication system. Across the asteroid belt, hundreds of station commanders listened as she spoke words that had been prepared for this moment for over a century. "This is General Rodriguez to all stations. Today, we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity's home. Remember, we're not just defending Earth. We're defending the principle that no species has the right to take what isn't theirs. Make every shot count." The response was immediate and devastating. 15,000 installations opened fire simultaneously, creating a light show visible from the inner planets. But this wasn't the chaotic barrage of primitive weapons. This was coordinated, precise, and utterly overwhelming. The Calethians had made a fundamental error in their intelligence gathering. They had seen Earth's defensive installations and assumed they represented humanity's military capacity. They had failed to account for the fact that humans were the only species in the galaxy to embrace the concept of redundancy on an interplanetary scale. Every asteroid base was independent, self-sufficient, and capable of manufacturing its own weapons and supplies. The belt wasn't just a defensive network, it was an entire civilization dedicated to the single purpose of keeping Earth safe. Admiral Vex Tar watched in stunned silence as his forward scouts simply vanished under the coordinated barrage. The humans weren't just defending their planet. They had turned their entire star system into a fortress that made the legendary defenses of the Andromedan Coalition look like a child's sandbox. "Sir," his communications officer reported, voice tight with fear, "we're receiving another transmission from the humans. Admiral Vex Tar." Director Martinez appeared on screen again, his calm demeanor unchanged despite the ongoing battle. "You're beginning to understand. The asteroid belt isn't our defensive line. It's our welcome mat. Earth's real defenses haven't even been activated yet. I strongly suggest you reconsider your position." The Admiral's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation among his species. "How long have you been planning this?" "Since the day we learned we weren't alone in the universe," Martinez replied. "We've had 300 years to prepare for visitors like you. The question now is, are you going to leave peacefully, or do we need to show you what the inner system defenses look like?" The true horror of humanity's defensive strategy became apparent as the Calethian fleet attempted their first probing attack. Admiral Vex Tar had commanded fleets through the subjugation of 17 worlds, but nothing had prepared him for what he witnessed in the asteroid belt. The human defensive doctrine wasn't built around massive capital ships or energy shields. Instead, they had weaponized the very concept of sustainability and distribution. Each asteroid installation could operate independently for decades, manufacturing ammunition, spare parts, and even replacement weapons from the raw materials of the belt itself. Admiral, we've lost contact with the entire forward reconnaissance. Squadron, Commander Relkan reported, his voice hollow. 37 ships, gone without a trace. What the Calethians couldn't see was the coordinated dance happening throughout the asteroid belt. The humans had solved the problem of defending a three-dimensional space by creating a three-dimensional society. Families lived in the asteroid bases, children were born there, and entire generations had grown up with the singular purpose of protecting humanity's home system. Inside Asteroid Base Vesta Prime, Captain Liu monitored the tactical display while her 8-year-old daughter worked on homework in the corner of the command center. This was the human way. Defense wasn't just a military operation, it was a way of life. Mom, are the aliens really trying to hurt Earth? The girl asked, looking up from her mathematics problems. They were, Captain Liu replied, ruffling her daughter's hair. But they're learning that humans protect their family. The asteroid belt represented something unprecedented in galactic history, a civilian population that had voluntarily transformed itself into a military force. Every miner was a soldier, every engineer was a weapons technician, every teacher was a tactical specialist. The line between civilian and military had blurred until it disappeared entirely. Admiral Vexitar's tactical computer struggled to process the implications. Commander, how many humans are we facing? Based on the coordinated responses and the scale of the installations, potentially millions, Admiral. The entire asteroid belt appears to be inhabited. This was the revelation that shattered Calethian understanding of warfare. They had expected to face Earth's military. Instead, they had encountered Earth's entire extended civilization. The humans hadn't just built defenses, they had built a society whose entire existence was predicated on defense. The asteroid belt had become humanity's ultimate expression of the principle that the best defense is a good offense multiplied by an entire civilization's worth of determination. Sir, we're receiving detailed scans of our fleet composition, the intelligence officer reported. The humans know exactly what we're carrying, down to the individual weapon systems. They've been studying us since we entered their system. Director Martinez appeared on the communication screen again, and this time Admiral Vexitar noticed something that chilled him to his core. The human wasn't aboard a ship or a planetary defense station. The background showed the interior of an asteroid base, with families and children visible in the corridors behind him. Admiral, you're wondering how we knew you were coming, Martinez said, as if reading his thoughts. The answer is simple. We've been monitoring galactic communications for centuries. We know about your empire, your other conquests, your military doctrines. We've spent generations preparing specifically for fleets like yours. The human gestured to something off-screen, and the display changed to show a vast chamber filled with manufacturing equipment. This is just one of our production facilities. We can replace everything you destroy faster than you can destroy it. Our children grow up learning to build weapons the same way your children learn to hunt. This isn't just our job, Admiral, it's our culture. Vexitar felt something he had never experienced in his long military career. Genuine fear. The humans hadn't just prepared for war, they had evolved for it. They had taken the natural human traits of adaptability, cooperation, and determination and focused them through the lens of centuries of preparation into something unprecedented. What do you want? Vexitar asked, his voice barely above a whisper. We want you to leave, Martinez replied simply. And we want you to tell every species in the galaxy that Earth is protected, not by treaties, not by alliances, but by the simple fact that we will never stop defending our home. The Admiral looked at his tactical display, showing the vast network of human installations stretching across millions of kilometers of space, each one filled with families who had dedicated their lives to this moment. For the first time in Calethian history, an invasion fleet faced the possibility of retreat. The Calithian Empire had built its reputation on the principle of overwhelming force applied quickly and decisively. Their military doctrine assumed that no civilization could maintain extensive defenses once faced with the prospect of annihilation. They had never encountered a species that had built their entire society around the concept of perpetual defense. Admiral Vextar made the decision that would haunt him for the rest of his career. He ordered a full assault. All ships advance. To attack formation. Target the largest installations first. We'll break their defensive line and push through to the planet. The order was a catastrophic miscalculation. The humans hadn't built a defensive line. They had built a defensive sphere that extended through the entire outer system, with the asteroid belt serving as the primary killing field. As the Calithian fleet moved forward, they triggered a response that had been planned and rehearsed for generations. The asteroid installations didn't just fire at the incoming ships, they fired in patterns that created overlapping fields of destruction, turning space itself into a maze of deadly energy beams and projectiles. Inside Asteroid Command Center, Palace 7, Admiral Chen watched the Calithian advance with grim satisfaction. The humans had learned from every conflict in galactic history, studying the tactical failures that had led to the destruction of other worlds. They had identified the critical flaw in most planetary defenses. They were designed to protect a single point rather than control an entire volume of space. Calithian advance continues, Admiral, her tactical officer reported. They're maintaining formation despite losses. They still don't understand, Chen replied. They think we're trying to stop them from reaching Earth. Show them what we're actually doing. The tactical display changed, revealing the true scope of the human strategy. The asteroid belt defenses weren't trying to destroy the Calithian fleet, they were hurting it. Every shot, every defensive pattern, every seemingly random arrangement of installations was designed to funnel the invading force into increasingly narrow corridors of space. The Calithians were being guided into a trap that spanned millions of cubic kilometers. Admiral Vextar watched his fleet's casualties mount and felt a growing sense of unease. The human weapons weren't just powerful, they were precise. Ships were being disabled rather than destroyed, their crews left alive but stranded in space. It was almost as if the humans were conducting some kind of experiment. Admiral, we've lost 30% of our fleet, but we're making progress toward the inner system, Commander Relkan reported. However, our tactical computer is indicating an anomaly in the human firing patterns. What kind of anomaly? They're not trying to stop us, sir. They're directing us. Our flight path is being controlled by their defensive fire. The realization hit Vextar like a physical blow. The humans weren't fighting a defensive battle. They were conducting a live fire exercise with the Calithian fleet as unwilling participants. Every ship lost, every tactical decision made, every formation change was being studied and analyzed by human military scientists. Director Martinez appeared on the communication screen one final time, and his expression had changed. The diplomatic calm was gone, replaced by something far more dangerous: scientific curiosity. Admiral Vextar, thank you for the practical demonstration. We've learned a great deal about Calithian military tactics from your assault. However, the exercise is now complete. Exercise? Vextar's voice cracked. Did you think we would reveal our true defensive capabilities against your pathetic fleet? Martinez smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Admiral, you've been fighting our training installations. The weapons platforms you've been engaging represent approximately 15% of our actual defensive network. The tactical display exploded with new contact signatures as the asteroid belt revealed its true nature. What the Calithians had been fighting weren't the primary defenses. They were the outer perimeter training facilities where human children learned to operate defensive systems. The real weapons had been watching and waiting, gathering data on Calithian ships, tactics, and capabilities. The entire battle had been an intelligence-gathering operation disguised as a defensive action. Admiral Vextar stared at the display showing thousands of new weapon signatures, each one significantly more powerful than anything his fleet had encountered. The humans had used his invasion force as a learning opportunity, studying their enemies while demonstrating that even their training facilities could devastate a major galactic fleet. Now, Martinez continued, you understand why your fleet never made it past the asteroid belt. You were never fighting Earth's defenses, Admiral. You were fighting Earth's school system. The scope of humanity's deception became clear as the asteroid belt dropped its camouflage entirely. What Admiral Vextar had believed to be a defensive network revealed itself as something far more sophisticated. A complete civilization built around the concept of distributed warfare. The asteroids weren't just hollowed out for military installations, they were terraformed. Each one contained entire ecosystems, with parks, schools, residential areas, and recreational facilities. The humans had created a society in space that was indistinguishable from planetary civilization, except for one crucial difference. Every citizen was a trained defender. Admiral, we're receiving detailed scans of our ship designs, tactical formations, and weapon capabilities, the intelligence officer reported, his voice hollow with defeat. The humans have been recording everything. They now know more about our military than we do. Inside the command center of Ceres Station, the largest installation in the belt, General Martinez stood before a holographic display that showed the complete tactical analysis of the Calethian assault. Centuries of preparation had culminated. In this moment, the first live test of humanity's defensive doctrine against a major galactic power. Analysis complete, General, the AI tactical coordinator reported. Calethian military doctrine follows predictable patterns based on overwhelming force and psychological intimidation. Their technology is advanced but not innovative. Recommendation: demonstrate futility of continued aggression. Martinez nodded to his communications officer. Open a channel to the Calethian flagship. It's time to end this charade. When Admiral Vextar's image appeared on the screen, Martinez could see the defeat in the alien's 4 eyes. The Calethian commander had finally grasped the impossibility of his situation. Admiral, your fleet has provided invaluable data for our defensive research. In return, I'm going to offer you something no other species has received: complete transparency about what you're actually facing. The main display changed to show a cross-section of the asteroid belt, revealing the true extent of human habitation. Millions of people lived in the installations, with children attending schools, families raising crops in hydroponic gardens, and scientists conducting research that had advanced human technology beyond anything the Calethians possessed. The asteroid belt is home to 47 million humans, Martinez explained, each one trained from childhood in defensive operations, engineering, and tactical analysis. We don't have a military, Admiral. We are a military. Every teacher is a tactics instructor, every engineer is a weapons designer, every parent is a strategic planner. The display showed the manufacturing capabilities hidden within the asteroids, shipyards that could produce vessels faster than any planetary facility, research laboratories that had been developing new technologies for centuries, and industrial complexes that could supply an entire galactic civilization. You see, Admiral, when humanity learned that the galaxy was filled with species like yours, we made a collective decision. We couldn't compete with established galactic powers through diplomacy or trade, so we chose to excel at the one thing that would guarantee our survival: defense. Admiral Vextar stared at the display, trying to comprehend the implications. You've turned your entire species into soldiers. Not soldiers, Admiral. Guardians. There's a difference. Soldiers fight wars, guardians prevent them. Martinez gestured to the holographic display showing the belt's population. Every human in the asteroid belt chose to be here. They gave up planetary life to ensure that Earth would never face what your empire has done to 17 other worlds. The true genius of humanity's strategy became apparent. They had solved the fundamental problem of space-based defense by making it not just militarily sustainable, but socially sustainable. The asteroid belt wasn't a military installation, it was a homeland worth defending. Your intelligence reports indicated that Earth had primitive defenses, Martinez continued. Those reports were accurate. Earth's defenses are primitive. But you never made it close enough to face them because you couldn't get past the home we built to protect them. Admiral Vexitar's tactical computer provided the final devastating analysis. The Calithian fleet faced an enemy that could replace ships faster than they could destroy them, had superior intelligence about Calithian capabilities, and possessed defensive installations that spanned an entire star system. "What are your terms?" Vexitar asked, his voice barely audible. "Leave," Martinez replied simply. "Return to your empire. Tell them that Earth is protected not by treaties or alliances, but by the determination of humans who chose to make the asteroid belt their home for the sole purpose of ensuring that species like yours never reach our world." The admiral looked at his remaining ships, less than half of the fleet that had entered the system with such confidence. "And if we refuse?" Martinez's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes grew colder. "Then you'll discover what happens when 47 million humans stop being polite." The withdrawal of the Calithian fleet was not a retreat. It was a lesson in the futility of challenging a species that had weaponized its own survival instinct. Admiral Vexitar found himself in the unprecedented position of leading the first Calithian fleet to return from a campaign without achieving conquest. As the surviving ships limped away from the asteroid belt, the full scope of humanity's psychological warfare became apparent. The humans could have destroyed the entire fleet within the first hour of combat, but they had chosen instead to demonstrate their capabilities gradually, allowing the Calithians to understand exactly what they were facing. "Admiral, we're receiving a final transmission from the human installations," the communications officer reported, his voice heavy with defeat. Director Martinez appeared on the screen one last time, but now the background showed something that chilled Admiral Vexitar to his core. Human children playing in a park, their laughter echoing through the corridors of an asteroid that housed weapons capable of destroying planets. "Admiral Vexitar, before you leave our system, I want you to understand something important. The 47 million humans living in the asteroid belt aren't here because they were conscripted or forced into military service. They're here because they chose to be." The camera panned across the installation, showing families living normal lives surrounded by the most sophisticated military technology in the galaxy. Children attended schools where they learned mathematics by calculating missile trajectories, played games that were actually tactical simulations, and grew up considering the defense of Earth as natural as breathing. Every person you see made the conscious decision to dedicate their life to ensuring that Earth remains free. They gave up the comfort of planetary life, the convenience of gravity, and the security of a world protected by others. They came here to be the protectors. Admiral Vexitar realized that he had stumbled upon something unprecedented in galactic history, a volunteer civilization. The humans hadn't conscripted soldiers or built automated defenses. They had created a society of people who had chosen to become humanity's shield. This is the message I want you to carry back to your empire, Admiral. Earth is not defended by fear or desperation. It's defended by love. The love of parents for their children, the love of families for their home, and the love of humans for the idea that no species has the right to take what belongs to another. The display changed to show the broader solar system, revealing installations and defensive platforms throughout the outer planets. The asteroid belt was just the beginning. Humanity had fortified their entire star system with the same philosophy of distributed defense and civilian involvement. You came here expecting to find a primitive world protected by crude weapons and desperate soldiers. Instead, you found a civilization that has spent 3 centuries turning defense into an art form. Every human installation in this system is home to families who chose to be here, knowing that their children would grow up as guardians of humanity's future. Commander Relkan approached Admiral Vexitar with a datapad containing the tactical analysis of their encounter. "Admiral, Our intelligence computers have finished processing the engagement. The humans allowed us to see approximately 12% of their actual capabilities. If they had chosen to deploy their full defensive network, our fleet would have been eliminated before we could fire a single shot. The Admiral accepted the pad with hands that trembled slightly. The data confirmed what he had begun to suspect. The humans had been conducting an experiment, not fighting a battle. They had wanted to see how a typical galactic military would perform against their defenses, and the Calethian fleet had provided the perfect test case. "There's something else, Admiral," Martinez continued, and his tone became more serious. "Our monitoring stations have detected 17 other species preparing fleets to test Earth's defenses. We wanted to use your fleet as a demonstration for them." The view screen split to show what appeared to be a galactic communication network. The entire engagement had been broadcast throughout the galaxy, showing every species what happened when someone tried to invade the human home system. "Your fleet's encounter with our defenses has been transmitted to every major civilization in the galaxy. They now understand that Earth is not a target of opportunity. It's a cautionary tale about what happens when you underestimate a species that has chosen to prioritize protection over expansion." Admiral Vextar realized that his defeat would serve as humanity's greatest diplomatic victory. No other species would risk the losses his fleet had suffered, and the humans had demonstrated their capabilities without having to fight a dozen different campaigns. "Safe travels, Admiral," Martinez concluded. "And remember, the asteroid belt is always watching." The news of the Calethian fleet's defeat traveled through the galaxy faster than the surviving ships could return to their home system. Within months, the Battle of the Asteroid Belt had become legendary, not for its violence, but for its demonstration of what a truly committed civilization could achieve. Admiral Vextar found himself in the unusual position of being both a military failure and a galactic celebrity. His tactical reports became required reading in military academies across 17 species, not as examples of how to conduct campaigns, but as case studies in the importance of understanding your enemy. The Galactic Council, which had previously dismissed humanity as a minor species confined to a single star system, suddenly found themselves dealing with a civilization that had redefined the concept of defense. Earth's ambassador to the Council was invited to address the Assembly for the first time in human history. Ambassador Chen stood before the gathered representatives of 43 species, knowing that every word would be analyzed by civilizations that had initially planned to conquer or ignore humanity. The speech she delivered would reshape galactic politics for generations. "Honored delegates, you have all received reports about the encounter between the Calethian fleet and our asteroid belt defenses. I want to clarify what actually happened, because the implications extend far beyond a single military engagement." The holographic display showed the asteroid belt in its full glory, millions of installations, inhabited by families who had chosen to make space their home. The delegates watched in silence as the scope of humanity's commitment to defense became apparent. The Battle of the Asteroid Belt was not a military victory. It was the result of a philosophical choice made by our species 3 centuries ago. When we learned that the galaxy contained civilizations that conquered other worlds, we decided that Earth would never be conquered. Not because we were stronger, but because we were more determined. The display changed to show the daily life of the asteroid belt inhabitants. Children playing in zero gravity, families gathering for meals in space stations, scientists conducting research that benefited not just humanity, but potentially all galactic civilization. The 47 million humans who live in the asteroid belt chose to be there. They gave up planetary life to ensure that Earth would remain free. They raised their children in artificial gravity, grew their food in hydroponic gardens, and built their homes inside hollowed asteroids, all for the principle that no species has the right to take what belongs to another. Delegate from the Andromedan Coalition, a species known for their own formidable defenses, spoke first. "Ambassador Chen, are you suggesting that your entire asteroid belt population consists of volunteers?" Not just volunteers, delegate. Volunteers, who have made the defense of Earth their life's work. They are teachers, engineers, scientists, artists, and families who happen to live in the most sophisticated defensive network ever constructed. The asteroid belt isn't a military installation. It's a civilization whose entire purpose is protection. The implications sent ripples through the assembly. No species in galactic history had ever created a volunteer defensive civilization on such a scale. Most civilizations either relied on conscripted military forces or automated defensive systems. Humanity had chosen a third path, making defense a way of life. The Calithian delegate, recently appointed to replace those who had planned the invasion, stood to address the assembly. The humans defeated our fleet without using their primary weapons. Our tactical analysis suggests they possess defensive capabilities that exceed those of any known civilization. However, what concerns the Calithian Empire most is not their military strength, but their commitment to using it. Ambassador Chen nodded acknowledgement. The delegate is correct. Humanity's strength lies not in our weapons, but in our willingness to use them to protect our home. Every person in the asteroid belt understands that they are Earth's guardians, and they have organized their entire society around that responsibility. The vote was unanimous. Earth would be granted full membership in the Galactic Council, not as a minor civilization seeking protection, but as a major power whose defensive capabilities made them invaluable as allies and terrifying as enemies. As the session concluded, Ambassador Chen delivered the final statement that would be remembered for centuries. The asteroid belt will always be watching, not because we seek to threaten other civilizations, but because we have chosen to ensure that Earth remains free. Any species that respects that choice will find humanity to be the most loyal allies in the galaxy. Any species that doesn't, well, Admiral Vexitar can tell you how that conversation ends. The message was clear. Humanity had not just defended their home system, they had established themselves as the galaxy's guardians, proving that sometimes the best way to achieve peace is to make war too costly to contemplate. In the asteroid belt, 47 million humans continued their daily lives, raising children, conducting research, and maintaining the defenses that had become their heritage. They had transformed from a species confined to a single world into the galaxy's ultimate protectors, not through conquest, but through an unwavering commitment to the principle that home is worth defending. The invaders had sent a fleet to Earth. It never made it past the asteroid belt, and the galaxy was forever changed.